Alan Lee Holmes and Charlotte Warner. Now, as always, I shall remind you, you can get in touch via Twitter. It's hashtag LeadLUU, or tweet us at LeadStudentTV with your questions. They will speak all for 1 minute each. Then we will take some set questions that have already been sent in via the Union website, and then we will turn to the floor and to the Twitter sphere. Voting opens on the 4th of March, as I say, at 10 a.m, and voting closes on Thursday, the 7th of March at 4 p.m. If you're still not sure who to vote for after today, you can check out the Vote Match service on the LUU webpage. Okay, let's get our first of 4 candidates for the position of welfare officer. Please welcome onto the stage, Layla Thompson.
In the middle of my second year, I sat in a hospital waiting room alone. My granddad had died a few weeks before, and I had so much work that I couldn't go to the funeral. My dad's girlfriend and her 3 children had just moved into our house back home, and my relationship was falling apart. And I was waiting to find out if I would need an operation for an as yet still undiagnosed illness. I sat in that hospital waiting room and I cried because I'd never felt more alone or less supported in my life. And that's why I'm running to become welfare officer this year. I want to fill in gaps in existing support, provide advice and help for those going through any issue, whether it's to do with your mental and sexual well-being, your physical health, or anything else that's preventing you from having a great time while you're at Leeds. These are all necessities, so if you are ever sitting in a hospital waiting room, or any room, you know that you are supported and that you are not alone. Vote for Layla Thompson and vote for the bare necessities. Thank you.
Layla Thompson there. If you could just take a seat, Layla, next to me here, that'd be great. Next up, we have Laura Potter.
Hey, I'm Laura. I'm running for welfare because I feel that we need to increase the awareness of the support that's already here at Leeds. The student advisor already offers such an extensive range of welfare services for us all. And I think in running for this campaign these last couple of weeks, a lot of people have asked me the question, what even is welfare? And the fact that people don't have that definition is the main reason why I'm running for it. I want to make welfare accessible for everyone, and I want to be able to make it approachable. You know, I'm going for the fact that people don't feel like they need to hide behind their problems anymore, and that they can speak out. And welfare, it needs to spread across the whole university, whether that's with your personal tutors or with academic tutors, in societies or just in the student union itself. Welfare needs to extend across a broader range of outlets. Please vote Laura Potter for welfare.
That's Laura Potter. The next candidate for the position of welfare officer is Alan Lee Holmes.
Does this need to go high?
If you just keep it close to you.
Sorry. Hi there everyone, my name's Alan Holmes, and obviously I'm running for the position of welfare officer, but as well this year I'm currently the welfare rep here at Leeds University Union, and that means that I represent the welfare societies at things like the Better Union forums and at the activities exec meetings. From being the welfare rep, it's become really clear that our societies are dealing with some really difficult issues, and what I mean by that is people coming to the societies and say that they're either going to be self-harming, harming other people, or in some severe cases committing suicide. And obviously our societies at the time would turn to LUU, but unfortunately LUU at the moment doesn't have any very clear policies on what to do in those circumstances, and that's something that I want to address. I think the second issue of it is our support that we provide our volunteers isn't very good at the moment. So we have students who give up time while they're at university and dedicate it to providing help for other students, but we're not supporting them. We're not creating a community at the moment for helping them. What I want to do is put Leeds University back on the map and make us a shining symbol of how welfare should be provided at unions. Vote Alan for welfare.
That's Alan Lee Holmes. If you could sit to my right, Alan, that'd be brilliant. And the final candidate for the position of welfare officer is Charlotte Warner.
Too short. Hi, my name's Charlotte. I'm a third-year student nurse, and I just want to say I'm really nervous, so sorry if I stumble over my words. Why am I running for welfare? I'm running for welfare because I'm passionate and driven about supporting and improving the accessibility and availability of the advice in the union, affecting the health, happiness and safety of all students. I've been talking to a range of students and found that not many are aware of the advice and support that Leeds University has to offer. And 66% in the last survey of Rate Your Union agreed that great support is there at the union. And this shows that there's such a range of improvement that needs to happen. The health, happiness and safety is so important no matter where you are in the university or the country. So long as you're part of this university, you need to be supported. And I want to make this ideal a reality. Vote Warner for welfare. Thank you.
That's Charlotte Warner. So there are all 4 candidates for the welfare officer position. Get tweeting now at Leeds Student TV or hashtag LeadLUU. We will get your questions after the first few set questions that have already been sent in over the course of the past week. So first off, getting straight into the specifics, we'll start from the left, and then for the second question, we will begin from the right. Okay, should students be allowed to sell naked calendars? Is our first very specific question. Layla.
I personally don't think that there's anything wrong with students selling naked calendars, but there are issues that should be addressed. I think when naked calendars are being made, when they're being photographed, it's important to kind of make sure that the photos don't objectify anyone. And it is possible to take naked pictures without them being sexual, with them being funny or with them being amusing. And I think it is a really big fundraiser for societies like RAG, and I wouldn't want to kind of take that source of income away from them by saying this shouldn't be allowed. But I do think societies need to think long and hard about how to make them kind of amusing and relevant to what they're doing, rather than making them just overly sexual and potentially objectifying the people in the photos.
Laura Potter.
I think with the naked calendars, I think that we should be allowed to sell them, but I think that the people involved in the naked calendars should feel comfortable doing it. I don't think there should be any peer pressure in being made to get naked and do calendars if it's not something that you want to do. A few friends that I've spoken to, and they said that they'd turn up for training or matches and just be told to strip off and that they were going to do a naked photo shoot. And I think in terms of that side of the naked calendar, I don't think that's right. But again, on the other side, they are a massive fundraiser. I think if the people that do want to get involved in it, it is something that's fun. My campaign is all about sort of the naked truth. And I think there can be a lot of fun to be had in it. And as long as people are comfortable and happy to do it, I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, Alan Lee Holmes.
Yeah, so I think it's great that we do have naked calendars because they're a really good way of raising money for charity, and a lot of societies do them. And the one thing that I'm sort of worried about, like other candidates have mentioned, is objectification of people in those photos. And also as well is the portrayal of body image. So I think what's really good about some of the calendars that we've had recently is that they've showed a wide variety of body images rather than just going for what's stereotypically seen as attractive within the media. So that's the sort of people that you see on the front cover of like lads mags and front cover of like Men's Health, because that isn't how most people look. So I think as long as a calendar shows a range of body images, then that can only be a good thing. And I think that's something that RAG have done quite well this year by letting committees decide who they want in their calendars. The committees have been really responsible with who they've picked, and I think it's good to trust our societies with doing that.
Charlotte Warner.
I think, again, it's a really good way of raising money for charities, and it's all going to a good cause. But I think the problem is with people not being comfortable in doing it, so it's not involving the whole society in doing it. And I think there's lots of other ways that you can probably raise as much money and do something as good.
Okay. And the next question for our welfare officer candidates is as follows. We'll start from the right. Should the union have a minimum that they should charge for alcohol?
Oh, I don't know.
Just take your time and answer when you're ready.
I think with a minimum funding, you then
We're going to skip to somebody else now. We're going to move to Alan Lee Holmes.
Yeah, so quite simply, I don't think there should be a minimum price on alcohol, and that's because I think that students are able of deciding how much they should be drinking themselves. And I also feel like rather than charging a minimum price and outpricing people from drinking, what we need to do is raise awareness of appropriate drinking and raise awareness of what the limit is and how you drink responsibly, essentially. I think that's more important than outpricing people from being able to drink, because I don't think this is a problem that everyone has where they do drink to excess.
Laura Potter.
I think it's the same with what's sort of going on in wider society at the minute, that whether we raise the drinking age, will it stop people drinking? And the answer is no, it won't. So if we raise the price of alcohol, it will just stop people from coming into the union. You know, the people that come here on for free tea, for terrace, that go to buy alcohol, it'll deter them from coming. And I think, like Alan said, whether we raise the price or not, that's not the issue. It's the fact that people need to be aware of the problems with sort of excessive drinking and things. And I don't think in charging a minimum price that will tackle that issue.
Layla Thompson.
I don't think it's kind of feasible for the union to take responsibility for people's drinking like that. If we raise the prices of alcohol in the bars, that's not going to stop people pre-drinking before they come to events like Fruity. It's not going to stop people from drinking too much at home. So I agree that there needs to be more alcohol awareness. Also, a lot of people do think that the union is expensive, and with fees going up and with people just having less money to spend, it's important that we keep people coming into the union so that we have the money to help our societies and do all of those sorts of things. Also, it's important to remember that students coming to university are legally allowed to drink. You don't want to lecture people. People know that they shouldn't drink to excess. They've been told this since they were 14 or 15, and us telling them this isn't going to kind of reinforce that or stop them doing what they want. So I think we need to make sure that students do take responsibility for themselves, but we can make sure that the union remains a good place to be by kind of not allowing entrance for people who are too drunk, things like that, to deter people from drinking too much if they are coming to the union.
Should the union have a minimum they should charge for alcohol? Let's return now to Charlotte Warner.
Sorry about that. I think with the minimum price that people would go elsewhere to buy alcohol so that it'd be cheaper in shops and things like that. And I think the union is about having all students brought together, and you should look out for their health and their safety by advising them and by supporting them if they feel that they do have issues with drinking or other issues as well.
Okay. Next up, a question about housing has been brought forward. Is it possible and should the Advice Centre inspect every student home? Is it possible and should the Advice Centre inspect every student home? Let's start with Laura Potter, please.
I don't think it's realistic at all for the Student Advice Centre to inspect every student home. There's so many houses out there that it would not be possible. I think what needs to be in place, and there is a lot of help already out there with the Student Advice Centre and the housing sector of that, is that what you're looking for when you go to look around a house. I think especially for me, last year when I was looking, we trailed through 15 houses, and I think it was the 15th that we actually felt happy with. And I think students need to know what to look for, how to sort of find a good landlord and have someone there that can sort of give sort of a set of rules maybe of what you should look for in a house when you're looking around. I think there's no way that all of the student houses could be inspected, but maybe they should have, the union should sort of list good landlords or have sort of a feedback system. If you've had a good landlord, there should be a system where you can promote them and you can advertise them, as well as there should be a system if you've had a bad house and a bad landlord, just to make people more aware and give people a choice.
Layla Thompson, please.
I also don't think it's feasible for the Student Advice Centre to go and inspect every student's house. The Student Advice Centre does really good work dealing with other issues, and yes, housing affects the majority of students at Leeds, but I don't think it should take priority at the expense of other services that the Student Advice Centre offers, like support for people with mental illnesses and like providing sexual health advice and support, which I think are just as important as housing. But I do think they should support students in helping them make complaints against their landlord. If you have problems with damp and your landlord isn't addressing it, you should be able to go to them. And in those cases, they should come and inspect the property and help you make that complaint. But I don't think it's feasible for, or to ask the staff in the Student Advice Centre to spend their time going around the whole of Leeds looking at houses when they could be helping so many more students with a wide variety of issues.
Alan Lee Holmes, your thoughts?
No, it's definitely not sort of capable in the capabilities of student advice, but I think what is in the capabilities of student advice is to get them to train students on how to check the homes when they're going around themselves. So what I'd really like to see, for example, is a demo house set up maybe on campus and student advice advising what the things that they need to be looking for when they're going around checking houses. So for example, when I looked in first year, one thing that I didn't really think about checking for was damp. And that was something that was very apparent in the house. So I think simple things like that can make a difference. But I also think we have a good relationship with Unipol, and we have a Unipol code of standards, and I think that we need to sort of send that out to students more, get the message across that they should be going for Unipol properties. But I also think we should be encouraging the standard of Unipol properties to be higher every single year.
Finally, Charlotte Warner.
Yeah, same again. I think that's impossible to get around every house in Leeds. But I think to address the problems with housing companies as well, because they have a lot of reports that don't get sorted out and things like that, and I think that's important to address them and work with them to get the landlords to be able to give students somewhere that's safe to live. I think that students also need to know what the standards are of living. So, for example, knowing what locks they've got on the doors and things like that, and so they can help maintain and give advice to other students as well to what's good to live in.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. We shall return to a set question a little bit later on, but let's involve you guys in the audience and on Twitter now. If you'd like to raise your hands if you have a question for any of these candidates. Okay, Ant Hadley here at the front.
Do you plan to run any campaigns around sexual assaults? And how would you make sure that they were effective?
Campaigns around sexual assault and their effectiveness. Let's start with Alan Lee Holmes, please.
So it's not something that I've mentioned in my manifesto, but it's become really apparent that this is what students want. One thing that I'm really concerned about is I think with these campaigns is you tend to have quite a lot of them and they can water down. So you can run a campaign on anti-homophobia, on anti-racism, on sexual harassment, on sexual abuse, but then you end up with loads of campaigns. And what I think we need to do is run one campaign within LUU, and it's one campaign to say that we won't put up with any sort of harassment on campus. But I also think it's really bad that this is a question that we're having to ask in 2013 at Leeds University Union, because this is an issue that we should have sorted a very long time ago, and it shouldn't be continuing on campus. So yes, it's definitely something that I want to put at the forefront, but I want to have a unified campaign against everything.
Okay, let's go over to Layla Thompson.
I think it would be really good to run a campaign about sexual assault and harassment and make people aware that it is still an issue. In Canada, I think they ran a campaign called the Don't Be That Guy campaign, which you can look up. It started at a university, and the idea was getting rid of myths around sexual harassment and sexual assault. So it was things like, just because you help her home doesn't mean you can help yourself. It wasn't strictly limited to assaults on women. It was also encompassed assaults on men, which I think is really important. And the campaign was so successful on the university that it was eventually used in the area. And I think in the area, I think sexual assaults went down by 10%. And although that's not completely due to that campaign, it definitely helped. So campaigns can work and can be really effective. It's also important to mention that the union is currently putting together a zero-tolerance policy on harassment and sexual assault within the union. And what that involves is educating people on what sexual harassment and sexual assault actually means. If someone gropes you at the bar, that's not just annoying, that technically counts as a sexual assault. And it's really important for people to know that, because if you know that you're being assaulted or that you're being harassed, you can then do something about it and encourage other people to do something about it as well.
Charlotte Warner.
I spoke to Matt, who's the police liaison person as well, and he said a lot about sexual assault and how people don't know what it is, so, and especially for people that are doing the sexual assault that don't know what it is. So it could be literally sending a text message that someone finds inappropriate, and that can be classed as it. And I think it's really important as well to educate these people that are doing it, how it can affect their lives and the people that they are doing it to as well. Like Layla said, there's a lot of work going on at the minute, training personal tutors and bar staff with how to deal with sexual assault, and I think that's really important as well. But just, I think, mainly education, so that people know what it is and what's going on and how to deal with it.
And finally, Laura Potter. Same question.
I think what's been mentioned here again is the fact of awareness, and that people do not know what it is, and again that they're not aware that they're doing it. And I think something as welfare as a whole, that it needs to be put out there. These things, people need to know about these things for them to have any effect and for us to be able to improve the current situation. I think with sexual assault and sexual harassment, I think it could possibly be incorporated into a bigger thing, sort of like a sex week, that it doesn't just cover sexual assault and harassment, it'll cover sexual health, and it'll be part of a campaign that sort of, it'll take up the whole week, and there'll be different aspects of this sort of, that, you know, feed into the whole week. I think that there is this thing that we do need to say, that there is a no tolerance policy, and I think what's going on at the minute, the foundations that have been laid for the no sexual harassment policy, I think it's something that I'm looking forward, if I am to be elected, to sort of work with and push forward next year.
Okay, lots of interesting points there. I hope that answered your question. And any other questions from the floor? Right at the back. We'll just get you a microphone.
Leeds University Union was ranked one of the lowest in the country for sexual health awareness this year. And so far we haven't had a specific campaign on sexual health awareness. How could you improve on this?
Okay, very similar things I presume you'll be discussing as we did in the last question, so if we can briefly make this a quick question if possible, and we'll start now from the right again with Charlotte.
I have actually brought sexual health and STI testing into my manifesto, and I think it's really important to give this a revamp, and I think with STI testing it's to make people to make it more accessible and acceptable to do. So bringing it to the university and bringing it to halls, etc., just so that people can readily find it and get it. Also, I think... sorry, I lost my train of thought now. That's it.
Okay, moving on. Layla, please.
I'm a sex ed teacher. I've taught sex ed in Leeds for the last 3 years, and I'd want to use some of the knowledge and some of the skills that I've learned from that and apply them if I was to be elected welfare officer. Things like teaching people how to put on condoms properly. You might think you know, but we did a demonstration during Freshers' Week with my society, and the number of broken condoms, or the ones that split, during them just being put on the demo model was shocking. So I think we need re-education about that, for a start. Also, it's important to let people know about organisations such as Check Yourself and Free Test, which you can sign up for, and they will post chlamydia and gonorrhea tests straight to your house confidentially. You just do it at home, send it back, and within 5 days they will text you or email you or call you with your results. And I think it's really important for the union to be a sex-positive environment, which basically means no judgment, just advice and support, which is really vital. So it doesn't matter if you're having sex, if you're not having sex, if you have an STI, if you don't, it doesn't matter. We just want to help you have as enjoyable and as safe a sex life as possible.
Laura.
I think it goes back to my point that I mentioned in the previous question about having Sex Week, and within this week having different strands of sexual health, sexual harassment. I think we need to work towards the fact that sexual health isn't just handing out condoms after fruity while people are staggering home drunk. I think the stigma that surrounds sort of STIs and sexual health, I think it needs to be broken down and it needs to be made something that people aren't ashamed to talk about and people aren't ashamed to come and discuss that they have a problem. And I think in making the services more accessible and the information more accessible, hopefully this will achieve that.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor, please? Oh, apologies. Alan Lee Holmes first.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we do have a Sexual Health Awareness Week because we haven't had one this year, and that's definitely something that I think we should put back on the map for next year. Specifically, things that I want to do to sort of tackle sexual health, I want to bring STI testing on campus, but that's appropriate STI testing on campus. So we're talking about things that are like chlamydia and gonorrhea that are treatable, not necessarily the really serious conditions like HIV, because I wouldn't want anyone to ever associate being diagnosed HIV positive on campus, because I think that's quite a negative influence. But maybe, obviously we do need to do a lot more to signpost those services. I also want to get condoms available in halls readily, because at the moment they're not that available, and I know they were taken out in the packs a little while ago, and I don't know whether or not they've actually gone back into those. And as well, I think it is about running a successful campaign, and I was part of the It Gets Better campaign last year, and that's a campaign that's done really well, and we've got 18,500 views on it, so I can definitely bring that experience to the role.
That's Alan Lee Holmes. Okay, any other questions from the floor before we move to Twitter? Nothing? Okay, let's have a glance through Twitter. We've got quite a lot of people going on this sexual health route again. I'm going to deviate away from that. If you do want to get involved and you're watching, if we move away from the sexual health thing, you can tweet us at LeedsStudentTV or using the hashtag LeadLUU. In that case, let's return to some of the questions you've all sent in over the past week on the Leeds University website, leedsuniversityunion.org.uk. Let's talk about security. Should the union increase CCTV around campus and in its own building? Should the union increase CCTV around campus and in its own building? Let's begin this time with Alan Lee Holmes.
So, just as a little bit of background, I don't know whether or not anyone knew about the spate of attacks outside Montague Burton, but I was attacked outside there a couple of years ago, and unfortunately nothing could be done because the CCTV camera just didn't cover me. So I do think that CCTV footage is really important, and we have to have enough coverage, but I think sometimes it can be too much, and I think what's important is to have visible police presence as well. But on my manifesto, A Safer Leeds is one of my main points, and what I want to do to encourage that is to raise awareness of the Knowledge campaign, and that's a campaign which empowers you to be safe yourself. And also I want to get free self-defense classes for everyone who wants them. So although self-defense should always be a last resort, if you have to use it, you have to use it. So I think everyone needs those basic tools, so I want to be able to provide those to students.
Okay, all right. Next up, Laura, please.
I think it is imperative that students do feel safe within the union and around the buildings, including the accommodation. I think as a university, obviously the union should be that one place that you do feel like you are protected and that you are safe. I think there is this issue though that CCTV can go too far, and it can be an invasion of privacy. I know a lot of people in halls and things last year, we had a lot of issues with things being destroyed, the common rooms and things being destroyed, and as a result, a lot of us had to sort of split the charges between the whole house, and the majority of people weren't involved. And I think it's things like that, as well as sort of having being secure and safe, that it's important that we do have CCTV. But again, as Alan said, I think that having physical presences as well. These last few nights when I've been walking home, there's been police, a lot of police, and I think it just makes you feel safe. It is that you just know that there are people around, should you ever need them. I think increasing CCTV to the point that it drains resources from other aspects of welfare is something that needs to be considered, and the pros and cons of that need to be weighed up.
Layla Thompson.
I do think that obviously CCTV plays a vital part in keeping people safe. I wouldn't necessarily say that in the union or on campus it was vital for more CCTV. I think I can see 3 or 4 CCTV cameras from where I'm sitting right now. But I do think I would push for increased CCTV maybe on people's main routes home. So the main routes from campus into Hyde Park, the main routes from campus to halls of residence, to keep people safe on their way home when they're going, if they want to walk back from places. But I would also push, particularly on a Friday night after Fruity and at night time as well, for more awareness of the night bus service that runs. The main people that I know that use the night bus are staff at the union, so people that work at the terrace, people that work at the old bar, because that way they can get reimbursed for their travel home if they're working late. But I think it needs to be made a lot more obvious. I think in the freshers packs, stuff should be included on the night bus, on the way home. And also, I know that we have the deal with Amber Cars, where you can use your student card to get home. And that's really heavily promoted. But I think the danger with that is that because when freshers come to Leeds, they only know about Amber Cars, is that everyone's calling them, they have no taxis available, so you might just decide to walk home. I do think we need to make more information about other services available as well, like the night bus, even if it's just other taxi companies, because there's been so many times when people just haven't been able to get a taxi home because they only have 1 or 2 numbers. So I think there's a lot more that can be done to keep people safe, not just increasing CCTV.
And finally, CCTV, Charlotte Warner.
I think CCTV does impact on people's privacy a lot, and I don't think it's always necessary, as we say, on the university campus. I think looking at university campus, there should be things like security lights in dark areas so that people can be made aware if someone is following them or things. I think also the knowledge campaign that's out, not enough people know about it, and I think it's really important to educate people to do simple things like not walking with their phone out or with their iPod in, so they're aware of their surroundings and they're aware of who is following them or not. But yeah, that's
Okay, Charlotte Warner there. And finally, that is it, I'm afraid, for all 4 candidates just about there. A quick reminder that you can get all of their manifestos on the website, leedsuniversityunion.org.uk. Voting opens, as I said earlier, on the 4th of March. For now, though, let's get a big round of applause for our welfare officer candidates.
The Leadership Race 2013.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next
4 welfare candidates right there, and you guys have been getting involved on Twitter whilst it's all been going on. Tom Dixon has said that education seems to be the name of the game for welfare candidates, and he doesn't seem to disagree with that. We've also got Danielle getting in touch. There's a lot of controversy surrounding the fact that 2 of the candidates are using nakedness in their campaigns, and given the union's previous body image campaign, whether that's appropriate or not, we're having a debate surrounding that. Not only that, but people are also questioning the satisfaction levels of the School of Healthcare, given that it's the largest, one of the largest faculties with the lowest satisfaction rate. Make sure you stay tuned. Up next, we've got the position of community officer. We've also got some videotapes for you of all the manifestos for both welfare and community officer coming up shortly. Make sure you get involved. You can tweet us at Leeds Student TV with the hashtag LEADLUU, and those will go straight through to our presenter Andy Seddon there, and also they'll get read out after each question. Right now, though, we're going to go over the main manifesto points for all 4 of the welfare candidates.
Who wants an online budgeting tool and relevant money advice, on-campus taxi pickup points and free self-defense classes, healthier meal choices and better range of memberships in the Edge for students. Secondly, Laura Potter. She wants personalized academic support for all while making welfare more accessible and creating awareness of all things available for the students. Next, Leela Thompson wants to create an open and safe environment regarding sex and mental health, promoting knowledge and the night bus. And she also wants awareness of personal safety, especially regarding international students. Lastly, we have Charlotte Warner, who has an initiative to start a virtual advice center with 24-hour access for all students. She wants to create awareness and information about sex and mental health, and also wants to create a support system for those hoping for international study. Those were all your candidates for a welfare position.